the ends, the cable ends on a 2004 F-150. It's pretty similar from I think 04 to 08. 99 in that range. My truck has the same issue, so I've done it before. It's a little different on the 04. They are basically replacing some plastic ends with these aluminum ends. They're all over eBay and Amazon, whatever. I bought with this company 2015 to 2016, so I just bought them again. I think they're actually the first, but I won't swear to that. But anyways, I'll show you how I do it. I'm going to break this up in edit cuts because I'm doing this solo. And I'll put a description in the below of the tools, but the 6mm, an 8mm, 10mm nut drivers. I think a T25, maybe T27. Again, I'll update all that in the notes. I'll do a voiceover or just I'll add details. And I am using my Makita Impact because I'm lazy. And then you need a flat blade, a small flat blade to pry off the cover, and a bigger flat blade to pry off the T-bar covers. Again, I'll show you all that when I get started. To get rid of this access plate, it allows you to remove the two bolts. I believe they're 6mm to remove the latch, or the handle, excuse me. Then once you have that, you can pull the cable with some needle nose, get the door open. You're not having to work sitting down in the back seat of the truck. And it really is just as simple as using a flat blade in the top to depress this little notch, and then that gives you access to the two bolts here. So as simple as that, it's the latch. You have your two nuts in here. So this, that is the bottom cable, the head right there. You can see the black head with the green dot. And the top cable, you can see it right here. So now I need to figure out what part broke. As you can see, I'm depressing it and figure out what part broke so I can get it with the needle nose to get it open, then I can actually make this job a lot easier. Just to show a little more detail, if I get this thing to focus. There we go. You can see that cable right there. That's that cable that goes down to the bottom latch. You can see that plastic right there. That's the part that usually gets brittles and falls apart. The aluminum piece will go in there and act as the new head. And the yellow cable goes up to the top. You can see the bottom of that plastic piece right now there too. So I need to figure out which part. Oh, and there's ends, so there's two heads. There's the top of the cable, the bottom of the cable. So I need to figure out what broke. It looks like these two heads are okay, so it's probably the two in the top and the bottom, which means I have to take off. This thing won't focus on me. This plastic piece to get this off, so I can try to get the ends off down there, which means this job just became a lot more fun. So with pulling up here needle nose, it doesn't budge, so I'm going to take off the pillars and do this the fun way. You also got to pop off this, which is basically a flat blade. Pops it up. Depress the blue tab, which is a bit tricky solo, but it's pretty simple. So depress the blue tab in, and then work it out slowly. And it's a little bit tricky one-handed. Nice and easy. Put this away. And then normally I'll use a flat blade to pull these pillars off because they are in with these clips into the metal. And on my girlfriend's truck, it was old enough where the clips broke, So instead of just prying directly on the plastic, I try to get behind it a little bit to get some more pressure directly on the clip. And you'll see what it looks like once I get it off. And so these are the two clips I was talking about. You can try to go in from the side with a flat blade and get pressure directly on the clips. It puts a lot less strain on the back side of the plastic, which is what happened in my girlfriend's truck. Those are old and rotted and broke out. So I recommend doing that. So again, a flat blade, just get behind there and get pressure on the clips directly. So removing that gives us access to this nut. Let's see. Nope, and that's also 6mm. So I'll pop off this one and get those nuts removed. Alright, so on this side, it's easier to start from the left, or from the front I guess. You pull it open, and you can just flex this plastic back enough to get to these and pop them off. It looks like you see these 1, 2, 3 are in the truck. This piece, focus, is built into the truck, and this goes in it. So this popped off pretty easy. Then I was able to get behind here with my flat blade and get pressure on these guys to pull it off. And there's a little rubber grommet here, so I guess it doesn't rattle, whatever. Get between the grommet and the metal. With the flat blade, it pops off nice and easy. Now I have access to the top piece of the door panel. Focus. And there's one at the bottom, which is going to be fun to get to. But here you can see the problem. The white metal rubber that is the rubber that is shredding is what the aluminum part will replace. So I'm going to try, now that I have it exposed, see if I can pull the cable directly to release the latch to make this job a lot easier, but we'll see. So sure enough, I pulled on this cable directly and used the latch at the bottom, was able to pop it out and get it open. So this job now became much more comfortable and easier. So at the bottom there is also another nut. Once I have those three off, this whole panel should pop right off. Forgot one, and this I have to pull off this one also. I think this is 10mm, but we'll check it. Again, I'll put that in the description. So yes, it was 10mm. Goes in there. I just used a nut driver. This was easier to grab and it wasn't very tight. Also a note, so I have an impact, but when I put these in, I will put them in very loosely and just snug it up by hand with a hand nut driver because you don't want to strip it out. They're really coarse threads. Yeah, you get the idea. Anyways, they're coarse threads, so there's no point in snugging them up super tight. Put them in with the impact just to get them close, and then I'll finish them up by hand. So this is the mechanism. This plastic piece, this yellow piece, pops off. This yellow piece pops off. There you go. And it allows you to adjust. You can see how these are threads in here, and it locks in, adjusts your tension. For now I'm going to leave it closed. I will have to pop it off later because it's to replace this. This piece that's broken, this is where the aluminum piece is going to go. Going to go one there, one's going to go up in here. So it's 1, 2, 3, you can see. And the fourth one is down up in here, and this you have to replace with nut drivers. I'm sorry, star bits. And same for up here. And I'll put the description in below. T27s. I don't know, it's been a while, but I'll put it in there. So these are T27s. And just to show you, you'll want an impact, and here's why. So you can do it by hand, a little tough. This makes it much simpler. So I'm taking this whole thing off. This black plastic cable was inside of this clip, so just be careful. You can work it out pretty easily. And then here I'm going to take it off of my adjuster I'm going to notice it's just at the very end how much sticking in there. So I'll try to put it back in there and see if that tension is still good. So I'm not sure how well this is going to film, but I'm going to try to describe it. So the cable head, it goes up into here, and these are cammed. So they're cammed, so you can put it in there with the notch and turn it, and it locks it in place. But to get it free in the first place, you have to very carefully, and again it's not focusing, the head or the ball of the cable, you can put in there with the flat blade and just get it in a certain notch where it'll pull free, And then that white piece you can see, that's junk. So usually I just get needle nose and just crush it until it falls out, and then you can get it free of there. And you might have to sand down this into the black plastic so the aluminum piece will go in there. And for this piece, people will just cut it with like a safety knife, or what I've honestly had the best luck with, just get pliers and crush it off. Slowly you can crush it off without to worry about damaging and cutting the cable. So there you can see, I just crushed the cable with, crushed the ends with these pliers, and it just brittle and crumbles and it falls apart. We're going to be replacing it for a reason. Usually it's because the plastic broke because it got too hot and brittle. And same, so the fix is easy, just crush it and get it off. Okay, so a quick dry fit shows this will go on pretty easy. So there's a notch in the end for the cable. Again, this is much easier with two hands. Put it in there, and you'll pull the end all the way down the cable. You can see it sort of has some serrations in it that help bite it. Just get it all the way in there. Then you'll clip it inside a piece I'll show you, and you get a pair of pliers on the back side of the metal, and these grooves will walk into that notch and it's permanent. And again, this side I told you is much more fun. You have to try to crush off that white end. Again, it's brittle, so it's not that bad, but you need a small screwdriver or a small needle nose, and then the top, you can't really see it, but if you work it and have it out, you can see it. You'll be able to use a small flat blade to pry that, to push the metal wire out of the way so the head is free and the whole thing slides out, and then you work on it and put the cam inside of it and replace it. So there we go. Took less than a minute. So again, you're replacing it for a reason. All this is super brittle. A little flat blade, I crushed that end in a second, and then from this side I was able to push that cable out of the way and get the whole end out. So now, my cam, I'll put this inside, get the cable, get the head in place, then I'll turn this 90 degrees once it's in, and it'll lock it in place, and this end is done. A tip when you're doing this is don't put this end on. Don't put the bottom end, the handle end on. If you do, you lose some flexibility. You can see how much wiggle room I have. So when I have it all the way like this, I have much more room to flex the cable and get it out of the way. So I'm going to put this end on first. Then when that's assembled, I'll put the handle in place. So the cable is back in, the head's in its notch, and this thing right now, you have it out. Now is the time, if you want to oil it or grease it, spray a little corrosion X, whatever you have in there, just to lubricate it, make it a little bit quieter, etc. It's out, it's easy time to do it. And so this part, you put the cam up in here, gotta get which way it goes in. I think it's like that, but it's a two-handed job. You put it in there and turn 90 degrees and it's locked. So a tip, I guess QC has gone down since my last pair. Normally this piece, you have to put it in with pliers and twist it to lock it in place. Now it's so loose it spins freely, so I'm going to use a flat blade to try to just bevel it out a little bit so it's more snug in there and less chances of it spinning and falling out. And again, it has to be in 100% correct position to slide out. But I don't want it sliding out to take it, I don't want it twisting at all. So I'm going to try to flare out this end a little bit, just so it's a little more snug and less chances of it falling out. So I have it dry fit in place. I don't have this locked in place yet, but I have this in there to check it, and so pretty easy. I'll gauge the lock, of the latch, pull the handle. If I hit this in there. There we go. So that's pretty much good. I'm going to replace this first, because sometimes I read you have to loosen this up to get to this before I lock this one in there. Basically, to lock it in, take a pair of pliers and just force it in. And then this I'll put back in here, and this foam, I believe, was just to help it from anti-rattling. So I'll look for something around here, I don't know, old piece of pool noodle, some foam or something, just so it doesn't rattle inside. But it's rubber on metal, so it should be okay. But anyways, that's the majority of the top part. And these were T27s. So now I will get this done and work on the bottom part. So for the bottom one, it's the same T27. You get those free. The bottom latch is free. Slowly peel back your water guard, whatever it's called. Try not to touch the rubber, as you can reuse it. In here, you'll see once you have the three done. Here's your bottom latch. And same process here. Slowly and carefully pry this out. Alright, and that's free. Now I can get the slack to get this off from the back. So here's the latch outside. We're going to break the plastic clips off, put the cam one in there, doing the same 90-degree turn. The front one was easy. Just break that one off and put it in the back. And I'll probably have to pull off that backing plate, but I'll show you that once I assemble it. So I was wrong. The bottom one does not need the cam. You take this and basically a pair of pliers and lock it in that notch. I'm going to put the cable in there first. Put the cable in there first, then clamp it in, and I'll show you. So there you go. That's all it is. Now it's locked in. This actually was tight. The metal, I had to use pliers to clamp it in. So that end is complete. So the entire time I was working, I never noticed, but I had a turtle trying to lay eggs. I'm trying to leave her alone. But there's a drainage ditch behind the house, and so they come up here pretty often. In case you're not from this part, this is a red-eared slider. They're really, really common around Texas. Everyone as a kid has one for a pet. Anyways, there she is. So the fun part is this. So I have the latch sort of dry fitted in place with just the screws not snug down. This end needs to get locked into that plate right there. There is not enough room to fit it by. I can sort of get it. I might be able to force it. Can't see right there, but I'm gonna take off this guy and this guy to see if I can loosen enough to get it back in there where I can get it with pliers and not have to take this whole plate off. We'll see what's gonna happen. So pliers was an option. I basically put the flat blade in there behind it until enough so I get it popped in. So this will go into here, and then I'll be able to go into that notch. Then I'll be able to assemble everything back together and lock it down. Okay, so I buttoned all that up. The screws are nice and tight. It's locked into place. Put it back in the clip. I tried to put this all back down the best I can get it to fit. This is an 04. This is 2019, so what, the 2020s will be out in September. So what, almost 16-year-old vehicle. Cables are up here. This is all good. This is back and tight. I will get this guy back in place. Put this latch back in. Make sure it's all still do a final good before I put all the plastics back on. But that's the majority of the job. The other side's the same way, just on the other side, obviously. So I won't film that. I'll try to put some more details in at the bottom of the description, but I hope this helps anybody working on a, I think an 04 to an 08 F-150 with the suicide doors where the back latches don't work. Again, my truck's 99 F-150, my hunting truck is. It was the same job, a little bit different because this plastic wasn't there, this piece wasn't there. The back glass is that one that pops out, so you have to undo another screw to get trim off. So anyways, I hope it helps. Just one final shot to show the cam piece at the top That's not going anywhere. Can piece at the bottom. The can piece at the, well, let's just call it latch piece, handle piece in the top cable. Bottom cable, top end, the bottom end is in there. You're not gonna be able to see, but that's where they go. I came back to get more parts, and I noticed turtle was gone. Right there, you can see that is what a turtle nest looks like. She will lay her eggs inside of there. And I forgot how long it takes for them to hatch, so I googled it before. I don't remember. But anyways, that's what it looks like. One little tip I just learned: you have to put this in with the I don't know, those bottom little protrusions at a certain angle, otherwise they get locked up and it doesn't actually work. So put them in straight, then make sure the handle actually works before you button it down. Last shot.